systems are in use. We will take you inside the booth ahead, outside the lines.
Sunday, October 9, 2005.
Wide open man. And did he pull it in? There's no signal yet to whether he caught it.
Welcome to the era of college football instant replay.
It's good. Give me the other angle. It's a touchdown. That's not good. Give me the other one again. That's a catch.
And some coaches are not happy.
I hope I don't go up and review every dadgum call. We are looking at every play. Hopefully one day they'll believe it.
That's a touchdown. I have no evidence to overrule the call. It stands as called.
Unlike the NFL, there's a wide variety of equipment used for these critical calls. From high-tech touchscreen.
Why do it half-ass? Why not do it full blast?
To a simple TiVo.
It's not based on technology. I think it's much more based on people and good judgment.
At stake, key plays in games determining the lucrative BCS Bowls. Today, outside the lines, 1 month in, how well does instant replay work?
Touchdown.
And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Bob Lee.
Last season, all the attention was on the Big Ten, the lonely league, trying out instant replay. There were only 43 plays reviewed all season, but nearly half of them were reversed, and the stoppages did average more than 2.5 minutes of downtime. The logic, the momentum for importing this system from the National Football League is familiar. The coaches want it. We have the technology. Let's get the calls right. It seems simple enough, but in practice, there are any number of ways this is being done. And remember the 2002 season when two clearly questionable calls appeared to cost Penn State victories? Calls that produced public anger and criticism from Coach Joe Paterno about the Big Ten officiating.
A couple of lousy calls on the other side of the field.
But that wasn't our objective when we started off. It wasn't to eliminate controversy. It wasn't to look at things that didn't need to be looked at. It was to be predicated on triggering things that we thought needed to be looked at that had a fair chance of overturning.
Whether it was criticism or the desire for perfection, it's here. And next we'll take you inside the booth. Ohio State at Penn State last night, late in the first half. Buckeye quarterback Troy Smith apparently extends to get into the end zone. Was his knee down? They're going to review it.
That is a bang, bang call right there. Obviously, was the knee down before he extended the ball? Again, the buzzword in college football, indisputable video evidence. They ruled it a touchdown on the field. I think it will stand as a touchdown on the field. That is too close, in my opinion, to reverse that call.
Upstairs, using simple TiVo technology, officials looking at the same replays that you saw at home. They watched while 109,000 fans and a national TV audience waited for the decision.
Very quickly. After review, the plan stays as ruled on the field. Touchdown.
So it just seems that all replay roads lead to Joe Paterno. All but 2 of the 11 conferences playing 1A football are using instant replay this year. The WAC and the Sun Belt do not televise every game, so they are not participating in what is officially still an experiment. But replay is going to be used in each bowl game this year, the least sophisticated technical system, by the way. And after this year, it is likely an NCAA vote will make permanent this combination of video technology and the quest for perfection. Mark Schwartz takes us inside this work in progress.
Second and goal from the 7.
There's only 6 minutes left to play. Kentucky is driving for a potential game-tying score against bitter rival Louisville.
That was a quarterback run from the get-go. When the ball comes out, Louisville says they have it, and they do!
It's the most pivotal play of the game, and Kentucky coach Rich Brooks thinks the officials have gotten it wrong. He thinks his quarterback was down before he fumbled. Brooks, who once coached the Rams, cannot reach for a red flag to challenge this call. His only hope for justice lies with the man upstairs, in the replay booth. But not only is the call not reversed, the game is never even stopped.
I still can't comprehend that in the infancy of instant replay that we didn't, on a critical decision like that, didn't have clock stoppage.
Clearly, some coaches don't trust the system quite yet. Maybe what they don't understand is that even the closest calls can now be reviewed upstairs without stopping the game.
The fact that you're telling everybody that we're reviewing every play, that doesn't wash with me, because you don't have enough time to look at every angle as slowly and as meticulously as you need to on critical calls without clock stoppage.
Actually, Coach, the new technology is designed to do exactly that. Last year, when it became the only conference to experiment with instant replay, the Big Ten decided to use TiVo in its replay booths for its capacity to instantly replay video. Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney calls TiVo accurate and cost-efficient. And this year, Conference USA, the Mountain West, and the MAC have all adopted TiVo technology.
TiVo works for us. Let's put it this way, based on 13,000 calls, the number of reviews, the number of overturns, and the way it was received, I certainly wasn't going to go out and buy a new TV set after the kinds of experiences we had last year.
When the ACC decided to implement replay this season, it passed on TiVo, opting instead for this cutting-edge system with touchscreen technology. Although the $30,000 system costs at least 10 times as much as TiVo, it was quickly adopted by the Big East and the SEC.
Why do it half-ass? Why not do it full blast and be as good as you can be? And I feel like we have taken a step in that direction.
Bobby Gaston, the coordinator of SEC football officials, says his system allows for more looks, more quickly, and thus fewer stoppages.
Not to put down TiVo, but the speed and the accuracy with what we have sold us without question that we would be taking the forefront in instant replay.
Manning the 9-panel touchscreen monitor is the communicator who can pass along up to 9 different angles to the replay official. He typically has about 25 to 40 seconds between plays to determine whether the call on the field was correct.
He's got it now.
That's all I got.
Foot down. Perfect. He's got it. It's a good call. Correct call.
Noel Turner, a retired official with 25 years' experience on the field, had the final word from on high during a Big East game between Pitt and Rutgers. On numerous occasions, the booth is able to confirm calls without stopping the game.
Still gets the pass away complete to Lee at the 41-yard line. Shiano is screaming that it's incomplete, and it is.
Right there. It's on the ground. Correct call. That's correct.
Good call on the field.
But the booth is not nearly as confident when Pitt appears to score a fourth-quarter touchdown.
Falco to throw. Wide open man, Kinder. And did he pull it in?
Good touchdown.
Got no signal yet.
There's no signal yet to whether he caught it. Now there is. Touchdown, Pittsburgh.
That's a touchdown. There's not enough to overrule it.
Set up for the PAT.
But Turner is still not certain. And with Pitt about to go for 2, he makes an executive decision.
Tell you what, let's make sure.
Down by 10 points, 7:26 remaining, and this might get reviewed.
Turner buzzes down to the referee, indicating he needs more time.
So it is under review.
Okay, we're going to review.
Opposite side.
Back upstairs, the technician calls the TV production truck.
Yeah, can we see anything from the opposite side on that?
The ball's not on the ground.
Within 5 seconds, the replay crew gets the angle it requested, and more.
Got another
Give me the
one.
other angle. That's not good. Give me the other one again.
We got another one right at the end zone. I got an end zone shot, no?
37,000 people await word from above.
That's a catch.
It's got to be conclusive to change the ruling on the field.
75 seconds after the game is stopped, the verdict is in.
Okay. I have no evidence to overrule the call. It stands as called. Okay.
The touchscreen technology may be fast, but the Big Ten remains sold on TiVo.
This is not going to the moon. It's not based on technology. I think it's much more based on people and good judgment.
One of the major worries about instant replay was that it would slow down the game. As it turns out, most stoppages average less than 2 minutes, and nationally, the average is fewer than 1 stoppage per game. If anything, coaches and fans seem frustrated that the game is so rarely stopped. It's as if the system is too efficient for its own good.
What I get right now is we're never sure whether the play is reviewed or not reviewed.
Every play is reviewed.
We are looking at every play. And hopefully one day they'll believe us. We've got no reason to be telling stories.
Early this season, the SEC instituted something it calls public relations stops.
We'll go to our technical advisor upstairs and take one more look at it.
The game is halted for no more than a minute for only one purpose: to reassure coaches and fans in attendance that a call that likely would determine the outcome has been carefully reviewed.
What we're going to do, even though we know we're right, we're going to go ahead and stop it, and then we're going to announce it, and we refer to that as a PR call.
After further review with conclusive video evidence, the receiver did not have control, was bobbling the ball when he went out of bounds.
If you want administrators to interrupt the flow of the game in order to calm the crowd, that's okay. But that wasn't our objective when we started off. It wasn't to eliminate controversy. It wasn't to look at things that didn't need to be looked at. It was to be predicated on triggering things that we thought needed to be looked at that had a fair chance of overturn.
I haven't found yet anybody that's doing this, but we're all experimenting. This is an experimental year.
I don't like it because it means we'll be out there all night. I mean, a coach is going to complain every time he don't get a call. He's going to complain. I hope I don't go up and review every dadgum call.
Bobby Bowden wants to like instant replay, but his first two experiences with it have not made him a believer. He's still flabbergasted that replay officials found indisputable video evidence to overturn an apparent fumble recovery by his team against Miami.
It's ruled that he fumbled this football.
Florida State's athletic director recently complained to the ACC commissioner that the Noles got jobbed twice in their first 3 games.
If we're going to instant replay, we cannot afford to have errors.
He's still rolling toward the sideline. He throws the ball back over the middle of the field, and it's going to be down to the 1-yard line, and it's going to be ruled.
Oh, my.
A catch.
The SEC got some high-profile proof that the system is working at the Florida-Tennessee game. A volunteer receiver was ruled to have caught the ball at the 6-inch line. 7 camera angles later, the replay booth reversed the call on the field.
I think it's definitely going to be good once we get all the wrinkles ironed out. You know, I think it's going to be good, but it cannot afford it to make an error, or it's no good.
All we want to do, Mark, is get it right.
Everybody feels comfortable. The officials are able to eat their dinner that night. The fans are happy they didn't get screwed by the officials. The coaches know that it's been reviewed, and they'll go along with that. So we all kind of leave the stadium feeling a lot better about ourselves.
Mark Schwartz reporting. So the colleges are having their shakedown period, just as the National Football League did. In fact, the NFL had replay for 6 seasons before voting it out after the '91 season and then readopting it in 1999. Jerry Markbright knows all of this rather well. He was an NFL referee for 22 years, working 4 Super Bowls and experiencing the first NFL experiment with replay. He's also been a booth replay official, and he's currently the head trainer for NFL referees. Greg Schiano is the head football coach at the State University of New Jersey, Rutgers. He is in his 5th year with the Scarlet Knights. He's also coached as an assistant 3 years with the Chicago Bears when replay was not in use in the NFL. Bill Curry was the coach of the year in both the SEC and the ACC, having coached at Alabama and Kentucky and Georgia Tech. You know him as an ESPN college football analyst, and his opinion on replay has done a 180 from his original position. We're going to get to that in a bit, but Greg Schiano, we are a month into this marvelous experiment. What do you think? How's it going?
Oh, I think it's great. You know, anytime you can get it right, that's the goal. And we have great officiating in the Big East Conference, but I think every official would agree they like it because, as was said, at the end of the game, you can go home and know that we got it right.
Well, what was going through your heart and your gut when we saw that Pitt touchdown? And they stopped the game, announced they were reviewing it, and they're looking at that. And what were you thinking at that moment?
Well, you know, I know they're going to get it right. I've had a lot of exposure to the technology that we're using here in the Big East Conference, and I think it's tremendous. Again, it still comes down to the human factor. I mean, there's a man that's going to make the final decision up there in the booth, but with all the different views and all the different things that they have at their disposal, I think it's going to be awfully hard to mess it up. And you know, that's part of the game, but I feel really comfortable with the way it's going.
So, Bill Curry, what's happened to lift the dark weight of doubt from your soul here?
Well, I'm such a traditionalist. I didn't like the two-point rule when they added that to college football. I didn't like moving up the goalpost or narrowing the hashes in the NFL. I really like football the way we always thought it was supposed to be. And so when we started talking about replay for college football, I thought, number one, expense, and it's going to take money from more important things. Number two, I thought about the unwieldy NFL system. But what we've got now is a chance to have really good technology, exactly what Greg said. The coaches, when the coaches are educated about the system, the coaches are going to know that this is really working and this is really promoting accuracy.
Jerry Markbright, you were in the NFL first time around. Let me ask you, you're only human. You're a referee prior to '96. You're the master of your domain out there. In comes replay, the eye in the sky. You're only human. What does it do to you when, as an official, when replay is instituted?
Well, we didn't like it at first. We felt that somebody was intruding on our domain. But we very quickly found that replay showed how good the officiating was, and we kind of liked it then. However, the system didn't work. The idea was terrific, but the system just, the equipment wasn't right, and the parameters of when you start and when you stop and when you interrupt the ball game were a little bit looser, so it went away after 6 years.
This technology question, Bill, is something you work in television. We see the Pac-10, the Big Ten, they use TiVo. Not to put down TiVo, it's the only way you and I, working these hours, can catch a lot of great television shows. But the SEC, Big East, they've got the more expensive system. What do you think of this gap in technology?
Well, I think we're looking now at the same thing we face on the field, and that's the difference in conference interpretation of rules. We have different officiating associations, and I've always thought that was a weakness for college football. You'll have holding, it's one thing in one conference and another thing in another conference, and I think you're always going to have these arguments about which technology is best. I wish there could be an overseeing governing body that would make one decision and let everybody use the same kind of technology. But the same would be true for rules interpretation by the officiating associations. We've never gotten that right, in my opinion.
Well, Jerry, what about the gap, though? You consulted with the Big Ten. They use the TiVo system, which is what you see at home. They're just rewinding on the disc and looking, as opposed to being able to look at discrete feeds of each camera.
Well, you know, when they started, there was a lot of skepticism, but it worked terrifically well because they had their technical advisors who were all ex-officials and were up in the booth observing before they became replay men, and they have done an outstanding job with the simplest of technology.
Is the other technology, though, better?
It's more, it shows you more angles quickly, but I don't know if it's any better or not, because the proof, of course, is that this system is working. The college game is better for it. I hear a lot of coaches say, we can't afford to make a mistake. Nothing is perfect. This system is right more times than it's wrong. It'll make a couple of mistakes, but it works, and it's going to improve the game, and it's going to let people, as we've said before, go home with a good feeling in their heart because the big mistakes have been corrected.
Greg, when it came back to the National Football League, it came back with the Coaches Challenge in the 1999 season. Now, coaches are not involved in the Big East or in college football in making these challenges. Who should make the decision? Somebody upstairs or somebody down low who has at stake a timeout, perhaps?
I really think the way we do it now in college football is the way to do it, especially, you know, in pro football you're allowed to have video monitors in the coach's booth, so you get feedback from the coach. In college football you're not, so it's truly going to be on the naked eye. If we had a system where you threw the flag, I really like the way it is now. Because,
would you want that responsibility, though?
I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but I think it's the best now because every play is being reviewed. You don't have to make that choice, and I think they've done a good job with it.
Bill, how many coaches do you think are almost relieved to not even have to worry about it?
I think most coaches are relieved to not have to worry about it, and I think what Jerry said has been the best result of all, and that, frankly, I've got a lot better feeling about college officiating than I did before this system came along, because usually it shows how good the officials are.
Now, Jerry, the SEC says they review every play, every game. You've got 25, 40 seconds to do that. Can you fairly look at every play, every game in that compressed time frame?
Absolutely. When we started the replay system again in 1999, I was a replay official. I watched every single play, reviewed every play. I know that the college replay men you must look at every play, because if you don't, when something comes up, you're not ready for it. When you constantly review every one of the 160 or 70 plays, you're ready when something big happens. It's an absolute must, and it's an absolute certainty that they are watching every play.
Well, the SEC bill posits itself as being on the cutting edge here, both technologically and also the fact they say we have what we call PR stoppages. What do you make of that? Explaining to 90 or 100,000 people, this is what we're looking at right now.
You ever been to an SEC game, Bob?
I have a sense of what it's like.
I had not thought about that until I heard it in the piece, and it sort of hit. I'm still trying to digest that, but it's probably a good idea. If it takes 20 seconds, it's probably a good idea. And as fans develop an appreciation and a confidence in the system, then I think it can cut down on the possibility of violence and some of the really ugly things we've seen the last few years.
Greg, there's going to be a vote very quickly. The NCAA is probably going to keep this. Do you think it's here to stay?
I sure hope so. I really do. I think, I think there's a couple things that maybe can be tinkered with, but I sure hope it sticks around. All
right, gentlemen, thanks so much. Jerry Mark Bright and Greg Schiano and Bill Curry. Always good to see you, Bill. Thank you very much, guys. Next, the question of images. Mark McGwire returning to St. Louis, having kept the lowest of profiles. And also, the question of Kobe Bryant trying to reemerge as a commercial force. Your outside opinions as we continue.